Coolidge. And you are here, all right, and then that'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Supervisor Goodman.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Those who wish to participate, please stand.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to, again, be able to offer a prayer as this meeting commences. Let us pray. Oh, Heavenly Father, we give thanks for all those, whether in elected office or working in the myriad areas of responsibility we ask of governments, who, while they might be working for bread on their tables, are in fact working for us, their public, their constituents. And we ask your blessings be upon them. And as these supervisors gather, may you keep them aware of the trust placed in them to care for all of the children of God in this county, and ask that whether they share my belief in you or not, somehow you might work through them for the good of your children. I ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, good morning and welcome to the Pinal County Board of Supervisors June 22nd, 2022 regular meeting. We are in session. And first up is call to the public, and I've got two requests. First one is we'll go with Noel Reck. Mr. Reck.
Morning, I'm Noel Reck from Casa Grande. I've been out of state recently and unable to attend recent meetings, but I have followed them from afar, and there are some past items I'd like to address. First, I saw the big lie continues to be propagated with remarks from a citizen extolling the film 2,000 Mules, a film so thoroughly debunked that not even Fox would promote it, a film produced by Dinesh D'Souza, who himself was charged with, pleaded guilty to, and was convicted of election fraud, only to be pardoned by Donald Trump for his crimes. I'm sorry, do I not have your attention? And aside to that, thank God for the January 6th committee and the testimony of House Speaker Bowers for illuminating the vile, despicable, and criminal nature of Trumpism. Next, I saw some controversy over the Peralta Canyon and Sleepy Hollow Trail Road and Gate. I thought to myself, what a perfect opportunity to implement the program from the University of Maryland that I presented the last time I spoke before the board. But that wouldn't happen as that presentation obviously fell on deaf ears. Despite leaving the information and all my contact information, I heard back from not one of you. Most disappointingly, no comment from my direct supervisor, Mr. Miller. As was mentioned in the article I provided, is it any wonder the public in general has such little faith in its elected officials? Sadly, you've proved that point. With that in mind, will you ever advocate for your constituents in regard to Teresa Martinez and her failure to communicate with hers? I don't think that's too much to ask, as after all, it was you who appointed her. It's time to stop posturing behind your mahogany fortress and truly listen to your constituents, and I think that was borne out in the early moments of my presentation today. I will end on a positive. I give props to County Attorney Volkmer for his comments about drug addiction and incarceration. Apparently, there is some critical thinking to be found in this room. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Supervisor Miller, you were called out. Do you care to respond? No comment. Okay, thank you. Next would be Barry McCain.
Good morning, Chairman McClure, Board of Supervisors, staff, and friends. My name is Barry McCain from Arizona City. Salvation, diversity is salvation for democracy. What is democracy anyway? Democracy is a government by the people, especially the rule of majority, I believe the framers of the U.S. Constitution understood what democracy is. I believe the First Amendment was written first to protect the people's rights, and the Second Amendment was written so that people would be able to defend themselves against a rogue government, because leadership is not just a role we play, but a life we lead. Leadership does involve position, true, but only part. Leadership must have the element of moral force, ethical decision-making, academic and intellectual superiority, plus dynamic oratory and other communication skills, because we have to be efficient and effective. Is why we have to have diversity, which entails both empathy and efficiency. You won't have it without empathy. And so, therefore, I'm saying that when we have somebody trying to rig due process, then we should be following the example of the Constitution, and it's our constitutional duty not to allow them to be included in consideration or receive our vote, because diversity is about due process and inclusiveness, not divisiveness. We must have leaders that can inspire and persuade, not perspire. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCain. Are there others who care to address the board? All right, seeing none. We'll move. I'm sorry, Mr. Revelis, I'm so sorry. I didn't see you there.
Roberto Revelis, resident of Gold Canyon. The invocation calls for the good of our children. Yes. Mr. Chairman, call to the public is a valued component in fulfilling Arizona's statutory open meeting law for our state's public bodies. It is a unique opportunity that can foster public trust and respect for our governing institutions, or it can perversely infuse mistrust, disrespect, and instill concern for the personal safety of participants in call to the public. Likewise, it is no exaggeration to say that our nation's governing institutions today face a most critical threat because of an unprecedented competition between public truth-telling and public lying. Yesterday, we witnessed one of the most dramatic and uplifting moments thus far in the investigation of the January 6th attack, when Arizona's Speaker of the House, Rusty Bowers, unapologetically refuted the big lie being promoted by impeached Donald Trump and his lying associates. Mr. Chairman, all who truly value commitment to defending our Constitution against foreign and domestic enemies are challenged to emulate the moral clarity displayed by Speaker Bowers. While I personally am opposed to some of Mr. Bowers' collaboration with promoters of voter suppression and fear-mongering of refugee-seeking immigrants, I dare to stand in support of his courageous rejection of the big lie. Sadly, instead of Mr. Bowers' display of respect for the truth, what we consistently witness in this chamber during call to the public is support of the big lie by both members of the public and an elected official who took an oath to defend our Constitution. A sheriff who has more than once aggressively and publicly confronted me and others in this room, accusing us of destroying our country. His intimidation will not silence me, nor should it silence others. 10 weeks ago, Mr. Chairman, I requested that you direct staff to draft a clarifying policy on call to the public, a policy that would promote participation by the public while ensuring public safety in the face of abuse by the armed Sheriff Mark Lamb, intent on intimidation of free speech with which he disagrees. At that time, you unhesitatingly responded by saying, "I can tell you we're working on a policy on that very thing." Please, Mr. Chairman, do not allow yourselves and our county legal officers to be intimidated into silence by the former president's law enforcement political prop who continues to promote the big lie.
Can you please
I
wrap it
urge
up,
you
sir?
to exercise your authority and produce the call to the public policy you've been working on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me a few seconds over there.
Thank you, Mr. Rubellis. Mr. Liu, this is the process we're working on, is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are, and we'll make sure that a policy on the call to the public is included in that as well.
And that's coming in the next 2 or 3 meetings?
He should be meeting with us individually in July, and then we'll have a public meeting in August.
Thank you. All right. Any others that care to address the board? 1, 2, 3. Seeing none. Okay, we will move on to number 2, presentation of certificates of service to employees for 20 years. Mr. Liu.
Chairman,
Sorry.
before Lou do number 2, if I can just for the record make an announcement that Supervisor Kavanaugh will not be in attendance in today's meeting.
You may make that because I didn't, so thank you. Sorry about that. Mr. Liu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today we want to honor 4 of our long-term employees, all been here for 20 years. One of them is not with us, the Honorable Judge Kevin White, Superior Court Judge. He is not here with us today, but thank you for your service, Judge White, and congratulations. We do have 3 employees with us today, and we'll go through them, and when we do, if anybody, if they or the supervisors want to make any comments, please, you're welcome to do so. We encourage that. And then if they'd like to stay up near the front, because at the end, all 3 of the employees will take a group photograph with the board. So first we have from Pinal County Sheriff's Office, Lieutenant Brandy Ralston, and she was hired back in April of 2002 as a deputy sheriff and was promoted many times over her career to the point where she is now.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisors, this is Brandy Ralston, Lieutenant Brandy Ralston. She's been with the, not only is she a longtime community member with deep, deep roots here in Pinal County, she's been an amazing part of the Sheriff's Office. She currently is the lieutenant over our search and rescue, our aviation unit, has a lot of responsibility and does an amazing job with how much we hamstring her budget. She does an amazing job. Her unit is probably responsible for saving 50, 60 lives a year of people who would have died otherwise if they'd not come to rescue them. She embodies what the Sheriff's Office stands for. She's a good pillar in the community. Her family has been as well. And we are more than honored to recognize her for the 20 years of great service she has given to this county. And we look forward to, what, another 30? Another 30 years. You heard it here. So it is my honor to also be here, and thank you for the opportunity to recognize her and the hard work that she's done and the value that she brings to not just the agency but to the taxpayers in this county. She's one of the good ones, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll find somebody. Martine, will you come take a picture for us?
We're going to photobomb this. We're going to all jump in, too. So. Yeah, don't go away.
Thank you. Yeah, we do have 2 more. Next, we have Leonard Lawson from Air Quality. He was hired as a quality assurance inspector back in 2002 and is currently a quality assurance supervisor. So thank you, Leonard, and congratulations. And I see Andy coming up. Yeah, and let's do both then together. We'll do a duo. And Tracy Phelps, who has been with us since 2002, originally hired as an account clerk too, who has been promoted over the years and is currently a senior accountant. So thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Leonard.
Share the love. There we go.
I didn't want to be outdone by the sheriff. No problem. Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. Before us, we have Tracy, who has worked actually in public works for the last 7 years. Obviously, the previous that she was before working elsewhere around the county, but we've snagged her and we've been able to hold out to her for the last 7 years, and she works in our finance department under Ashley, and she is a true asset to our team and is very helpful in a lot of our HERF spending dollars and PO spending and et cetera. But she is a true asset to the finance team, and hope she sticks around for another 45 years. Then we have Leonard Jack Lawson. He's been with Quality Assurance. He's been with Public Works for over 20 years. 20 years, but he has lived here and worked here, and he has gone through the highs and the lows with the development. He basically runs our Quality Assurance program for all of our development projects for the commercial and residential development. And so he's been here through the highs and the lows. He's currently working on a high, obviously, so we don't want to keep him too long from the field so he can get back out there and make some of those corrections that need to be done. But he is a valuable asset, and his historical knowledge has been very helpful for Public Works, for some of us newbies, and as we go forward. But Jack will also be here for another 40 years. So, thank you.
Lots of big promises there.
Yeah, that's the whole list.
Is there one more?
Photo ops.
Yep.
Let's step down and get a photo.
Is there not just one more?
Is there, are there others, Leo? No, that's it. Okay.
And everybody looking right here. 3, 2, 1. One more. Let me do something different here. And 3, 2. Like you mean it this time. There you go. Thank you.
Next on deck, I guess, is County Manager's Report. Mr. Liu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to let the board know that, as you know, we've been working on a development code update and wanted to make sure that Supervisor Goodman, as you asked, for an update as well. Our Community Development Director, Mr. Billingsley, has made this a priority and is continuing to. It really is a big lift in the sense of it's almost a complete rewrite due to some of the state law changes as well that have occurred. And so we had been combining that with a lot of the other requests that we've gotten along the way. It got pretty big to the point there's 77 sections, and of course every section has multiple pages. And as a part of state law, the Planning and Zoning Commission has to review it and give their recommendations. So they are in that process now. Once they're done with that, and what their recommendations will be to you, it'll be brought to you for a work session and a public hearing. And so we're hoping to make sure that that draft is in your hands before the end of the calendar year. One of the things that we're going to do is, as many requests have come along, is to take new requests and to put them in another list. We will continue to work on those in the background, but not add them to this current update, as to not slow this one down any further. And then in the future, we'll take major requests for changes, sort of like we do with the comp plan amendment, and do those more on an annual basis, because those will involve research and changing other parts of the codes. But ones that aren't really major, that are more minor in nature, we can take on an ongoing basis, so we don't end up with a buildup like this and a long period of time to where we have updates just waiting in the wings. So that's the plan.
Yeah.
Supervisor Goodman.
Thank you. Yeah, that's been a big thing for me, is the length of time that this stuff takes. And it kind of, with the ever-changing things that are taking place in our county and the growth that we're going through, there is a need for some adjustments in this. So that's good to hear that you and Brent are working on these in that process, to where it even makes it a little bit more simpler, so to speak, to make those changes as things move forward. So that's good to hear. I guess one of the questions, and maybe we can address this later in your presentation when you guys do it, but because you talk about 77 sections, is there a way that we can take a section, and do a vote along those lines, just because you're talking another 6 months down the road that we're looking at? I don't know if that's a possibility, if that's even looked at and considered, that you take a section as we move forward. Anyway, that's just the thought that I'm having. So, but thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Liu?
That's it. Thank you, sir.
That's it? All right. Moving along. Item number 4, Purchasing Division Report. Ms. Peterson, you're up.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, and members of the board. I am T.R. Peterson, Purchasing Manager for Pinal County, and this is your purchasing report for June 22nd, 2022. First, the board is requested to approve the following contract amendments. RFP 182424 for WIOA One-Stop Operator. We recommend approval of Amendment Number 3 to exercise the optional extension period beginning July 1, 2022, with Chicanas por la Casa. This contract is used by the Economic Development Department. RFP 182524 for WIOA Adult and Dislocated Worker and Rapid Response Service. We recommend approval of Amendment Number 6 to exercise the optional extension period from July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2023 with Equus Workforce Solutions. This contract is used by the Economic Development Department as well. RFP 193325 for Detention Food Service. We recommend approval of Amendment Number 3 with a price increase, and to exercise the optional extension period beginning July 1, 2022 with Aramark Correctional Services, LLC. This contract is used by the Sheriff's Office and the Youth Justice Center. RFP 203026 for Public Defense Services Office Attorney Services. We recommend approval of Amendment Number 2 to exercise the optional extension period beginning July 1, 2022 with the following suppliers: Ardeen Fox of Fox Law PC, Catherine L. Gree, Attorney at Law, Shelley M. Wallace, Attorney at Law, Christina Griffin Carter of Carter Law, PLLC, David Mangan Law, PLLC, Jeffrey B. Cloud of J. Cloud Law, PLLC, Joy Riddle of Riddle Law Firm, PLLC, Anthony Kenny of Kenny Law, LLC, Kyle Hobson of Hobson Legal Consulting, PLLC, Law Office of Ann M. Williams, Law Offices of Daniel Thulin, LLC, Law Offices of J.R. Wallace, PLC, Law Office of Nicole Severson, PC, Paul D. Green, Attorney and Mediator, LLC, Jolanta Rosinski of Rosinski Law Firm, LLC, Ian N. Service of Service Law Group, Morgan P. Alexander of the Alexander Law Offices, Tyler Michael William Allen of Allen Law, PLLC, DBA, Queen Creek Law Firm, Brian Bohan of the Zachary Law Group. This contract is used by the Public Defense Services Office. RFP 208025 for on-site tire consignment. We recommend approval of Amendment Number 1 to exercise the optional extension period beginning July 1, 2022 with Pinal County Community College District. This contract is used by the Fleet Department. RFP 220126 for Title 1B WIOA Youth Provider. We recommend approval of Amendment Number 1 to exercise the optional extension period from July 1 through June 30th, 2023 with Pinal County Community College District. This contract is used by the Economic Development Department. Next, the board is requested to approve the following purchase request per Pinal County Procurement Code Section PC 1350 governing competition impracticable purchases over $100,000 in the amount of $215,000 with Motorola Solutions, Inc. for software support and maintenance for several systems, including Spillman, CAD systems, and records management, and this is used countywide. Next, the board is requested to approve the following change orders per Pinal County Procurement Code Section PC 1502, governing change orders that exceed minimum thresholds. PO number 246382 with Wex Bank in the change amount of $300,000 for a new PO total of $1,100,000 for fuel card services, and this is used by the Sheriff's Office. And lastly, the board is hereby notified of the following cooperative purchases made. PO number 247302 with Conference Technologies, Inc. in the amount of $132,685.88 for video and audio software plus equipment used by juvenile court systems, and PO number 247320 with Civic Plus LLC in the amount of $126,233.75 for website redesign used by the IT department. And that concludes your Purchasing Division report for June 22nd, 2022.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Does the board have any questions? Seeing none, may I get a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the Purchasing Division report as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Supervisor Miller, you had a response.
I do, and I just I pulled up my communications with Mr. Reck, and I see where I received a email on the 16th, March 16th. I responded on the 17th. I responded again on the 25th. I had another email from Mr. Reck on the 28th, and I responded on the 30th. And I don't see any other communications with him after that. So I did respond to the emails that had shown up on my system at some level.
You want to respond to that?
No?
No, this is a response to your call. You can contact outside of. All right, item number, thank you, Supervisor Miller. Next is item 5, consent items. All items indicated by an asterisk will be handled by a single vote as part of the consent agenda, unless a board member, county manager, or member of the public objects at the time the agenda item is called. Are there any items that the board, the county manager, or public wish to pull at this time? I'm going to call R and U. Are there any others care to be pulled? Any other? Seeing none, may I get a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve consent items A through AN minus RU as presented.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. All right, item R. Item R is, get to it. Somewhere, there it is. Item R is the termination of the lease between Pinal County and the State of Arizona, Department of Transportation, Administrative Services. It's the licensing office in San Manuel. And one of the issues there is that it says Supervisor District 1. It's actually District 4. But also, I'm just curious why they're leaving. They were there for so long. And Mr. Ortiz, would you care to?
Sure. Joe Ortiz, Pinal County Public Works Deputy Director. Contact was made with MVD several times to see if they still needed to use this facility. They technically were there for several years, but they haven't been open and active for over a couple of years, over 2 years. So we reached out to them again to see if they wanted to reinitiate this contract or this lease, and they didn't express any interest at this time.
I believe their issue was that they couldn't find anyone to drive from Tucson to there to work, which seems kind of silly when there are people there that might want to work in San Manuel or Mammoth.
Yeah, correct. That was one of the excuses they used for us. So, yeah.
So maybe we could revisit this at a future date?
We can.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
You got the correction on District 4? Thank you. Okay. So while we're here, can I get a motion for item R, please?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve item number R with the change of District 1 to District 4.
Thank you. I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Can I make a comment?
Oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Surtee.
Well, Chris Keller, next time that we meet, the districts will have shifted, right? So this is the last meeting where we have the old boundaries. So we will have some different responsibilities, some different constituents the next time you see us.
Okay. Item U is, what is it, an award agreement for Amendment 1 between Arizona Department of Homeland Security and Operation Stone Garden Grant Program and the Pinal County Sheriff's Office. My only question here was there was no amount shown. Usually there's an amount on all these items, but there's no amount. Do you maybe happen to know that? Just because you just keep that in the back of your head.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisors, I do not know the amount of that. I can get that to you.
I mean, it was kind of a gotcha. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah,
But,
I don't know the amount, because it does talk about amounts down in W, and it talks about amounts in V. So I think amendment number 1 may just be the term and not dealing with amounts, because the amounts are listed in amendment number 3, amendment number 5, 9. So the other items that you approved contain the amounts. That amendment on that contract may only deal with the time period of the actual contract.
So just verbiage.
It's just the verbiage of U deals with the time, the other ones deal with the amounts, but it's all in the same contract. These are amendments under the same contract.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I believe it's just extending it from March to December 31st to 22, and the original amount was $1.3 million. It should be in that attachment.
Which has been adjusted in the budget.
Okay. Thank you. Just so you have clarification, maybe you could just make sure, let me know later.
Put that, yep.
Okay, thank you. All right. Can I get a motion for item U, please?
So a quick question.
Unless you have a comment.
No, well, just a question. Is it okay to approve it the way that it stands now based on, okay, because we know those numbers are already right?
And those numbers are in the backup.
Okay, all right, good. So with that, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve item number U as presented.
All right, I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. It would appear we're on item 6. I'm going to recess the Board of Supervisors meeting and open the Desert Vista Sanitary District Board of Directors meeting. Item number 1, all is a consent agenda item. All items indicated by an asterisk will be handled by a single vote as part of the consent agenda unless a board member, county manager, or member of the public objects at the time the agenda item is called. You have a big choice here. We have item A. Does anyone care to pull this item? Seeing and hearing none, may I get a motion for item A, please?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve consent item A as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Item 1 passes. Item number 2 is a public hearing and discussion, approval, disapproval of the Desert Vista Sanitary District tentative budget for fiscal year 2022-2023. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Pamela Villarreal, Special Service Administrator for Pinal County. This is a public hearing for the Desert Vista Sanitary District tentative budget for 22-23. And as you can see on the budget, we are not requesting any levy for this fiscal year.
It's a pretty easy tax, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So is that the end of your presentation?
That's the end of my presentation.
Okay. Okay. So this is a public hearing, so I'd open the public hearing. Those wishing to speak, please raise a hand, stand up. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing, and I will ask if the board has any questions. Seeing and hearing none, I would ask for a motion then.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve item number 2 as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you very much, Ms.
Thank you.
Villarreal. See you later. And we will now adjourn the Desert Vista Sanitary District Board of Directors meeting, and we will move on to, let's see, we will convene the Flood Control District Board of Directors meeting, the Pinal County Flood District Control District. Again, this has got consent items. All items indicated by an asterisk will be handled by a single vote as part of the consent agenda unless a board member, county manager, or member of the public objects at the time this item is called. And we have A through C. My mind just totally stopped. Did anybody have any questions? Anyone care to pull anything? Good? No. Okay. May I get a motion for items A through C, please?
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we approve consent items A through C as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes. Thank you. We will now adjourn the Flood Control District Board of Directors meeting and move on to item number 8, which is the Public Health Services District Board of Directors meeting. And again, consent items. All items indicated by an asterisk will be handled by a single vote as part of the consent agenda unless a board member, county manager, or member of the public objects at the time this item is called. We have items A and B. Does anyone care to pull either one of those items? Seeing and hearing none, may I get a motion for items A and B?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve consent items A and B as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. We will adjourn the Public Health Services District Board of Directors meeting and reconvene the Board of Supervisors regular meeting. We will move to item number 9, which is a public hearing on ordinance number 2022-PZ-052-21, an ordinance which is approving case PZ-052-21. And Mr. Holguin, you are up, sir. Oh, and I should say that items 9 and 10 will be discussed together.
Good morning, board members. Gabriel Holguin, Senior Planner. I'll be giving you the presentation on these next 2 cases. Okay. There we go. So in front of you is a rendering of a senior living facility that's being proposed in the San Tan Valley area. It's a single-story community that will operate as a 20-unit assisted living and 48-bed memory care senior housing facility. As you see in front of you, this is a conceptual an idea of what it could look like. It features 3 buildings and is approximately 20,000 square feet in size. So as mentioned, we had 2 cases today, a rezoning for over 5 acres from general rural to a neighborhood commercial. And the next application is for the plan area development for the same site for 5 acres. And this is to lock in this one and this one specific use, which is the assisted living home / memory care facility. Location is southeast corner of Empire Boulevard and Kelly Drive, alignments in the San Tan Valley area. This is right across the street from Queen Creek. The applicant is Inspired Healthcare. The applicant is Whitney Morris Adambaugh. Is he here? Okay, so we have representatives. So this map gives you perspective as to where it's at. As I mentioned, it nearly across the way there is Queen Creek. So it's right outside of the Queen Creek area, but in Pinal County. The red square there, that's a representation of the piece of property we're talking about. Everything in white is Queen Creek, but you can see the rest of it, what's around it. It's actually everything in yellow is a subdivision that currently exists today. This map gives you better perspective. That little yellow box there is the property, but what exists there is an existing subdivision. Give you some history on this case. This used to be used as a light manufacturing. There was actual building on the site, and it did some light manufacturing there back in the day, years ago. And Kelly Road Drive, the alignment there, it got kind of blocked off for a canal that's there, and so there's limited access. So it made this piece very challenging in regards to what could go there. So there's been all kinds of proposals from sports facilities that staff didn't think would work so well because of the lights that they bring, to other types of office uses. This one is a low traffic use that staff thinks would work well. This gives you better perspective as to where it's at, and the 600-foot notice around it's everybody we informed. We also reached out to all the HOAs in the area. Believe it or not, I still have a hard time believing it, that we didn't get much public interaction. They did meet with people. They did ask them, are you okay with this? And the public was fine. It's a good-looking project. As we know or may not know, that senior living facilities don't bring a lot of traffic except on the weekends and when people come to visit. So it's a really good use in that regard. It's low traffic, which is needed because of the one-way in, one-way out that we have here. As you can see, the only thing they're really asking for is 24 feet for the architectural details that you saw in the beginning, but it's going to be the one story, and they're going to keep it at that. So the pad is just to lock in that and not any other uses as well. Here's a site plan, great perspective as to how this is going to work. The property to the north there is owned by the HOA, but the access is off of the Kelly Drive. And they are proposed, we did ask them to put a sidewalk so the public could walk down there if they wanted to. But this is 3 buildings. They've got kind of a loop system going on with circulation, which provides great access for rural metro if they have to get in there, get out. But they don't expect a lot of visitors. Typically, they drop them off. They come to visit, but this isn't a long-term type of use like a shopping center would be. And where it's at, because how far it is off of the street frontage, this piece is real limited as to what we could do with it in regards to what uses will work well there. So this slide here shows you all the landscaping that they plan to do. They plan to do some trees around it to kind of provide some buffering. That's also to provide, screening for those that live around it. There's going to be a wall around it that's going to also screen it from the existing homeowners that live next to it. Once again, we don't, this isn't a lot of noise that comes from these uses. People are dropped off, they take care of them there, and it's real quiet. So we think it's a good mix in regards to what this is going to do. And the biggest thing for staff was the traffic. There's not much traffic coming and going from this project. This is a broadcast sign. I mean, we did have them post 2 of these large signs in front of the property. So, because I was real nervous as the planner as to making sure the public was okay with this, because I know with the sports facility, not the case. We just didn't have a lot of people that had any negative comments. This is an image to the north. This one's to the east there off the road. To the south and to the west. Vehicular access, as I mentioned, it's essentially one major driveway to accommodate traffic coming and going. And it's looped for fire, which is another big plus that they were okay with. I mean, staff gave them a bunch of comments, and they took most of our ideas and they ran with them. Senior living, this is a senior living development, and it's, as I mentioned, it doesn't bring up a lot of traffic. The TIA also was done on this project to ensure that. Project falls within the suburban neighborhood of the land use designation per the Santan Valley Area Plan, and it complies. So this is definitely an allowed, a recommended use per the policy. The PD amendment is, once again, is to focus only on this use and this use only. and to limit it to the one story, so we don't have to worry about if the capital doesn't come in, it's locked into this use. It'd have to come back, new application, rezone, a whole public process again. So the PAD really lets us lock in that use and keep it there. Staff comments. So it conforms with the area plan. We have recommendations from staff and from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Once again, this is going to bring a use that's not too common out in Santan, which is a senior living facility, memory care. There's not a lot of them out there. This is the second one I've done since I've been here in 4 years. There's just not a ton of them out there. But it is definitely a needed use. This is a smaller one than the one I just did that came to you a few months ago. So this is same type of use, but just a little bit smaller. Not much traffic, and they expect this type of use to continue to be needed as Santan Valley continues to get bigger and bigger and more people move in. So definitely a needed use. Planning Commission and staff recommend approval of the first application with one stipulation. We recommend approval of the second application with 14 stipulations, which they've reviewed. They're okay with them. There's no issues there. So I'm here to answer any questions you may have. The applicants are here as well, and they'd be happy to answer questions you may have.
Are there any questions from the board? Seeing, hearing none. The applicant care to make a presentation? Thank you, Mr. Olguin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Supervisors. My name is Alex Hayes, 2525 East Arizona Biltmore Circle. I'm happy to be here this morning on behalf of Inspired Healthcare. We do have a presentation that we'd be happy to go through at your discretion, but I think staff just gave a great presentation, and with their recommendation of approval and unanimous approval from the Planning Commission, perhaps it'd be better served if I just made a few comments and was available for questions.
Certainly.
So this request really just allows for the development of a product really needed in this area. Our market research shows that there's already a shortage of this type of product, which is assisted living and memory care. And in the next 5 years, that need is projected to grow by almost 50%. So this development will help meet that demand with a development that is context appropriate and really with a beautiful design that will enable residents in this area to age in place within their community or to bring in family members who need additional care and attention in a place that has proximity to their loved ones. As mentioned, it's a very low intensity use, low trip generation, low noise generation, as you can imagine. And then the PAD simply limits the permitted uses on this site to exactly what we're talking about here, just to ensure that this site is developed exactly as we're proposing. So with that, I think I'll leave it there and be available for any questions you have.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions of the board? No questions. I know Supervisor Goodman looked forward to these types of facilities in his area.
Thank you.
I was hoping we'd get away without any kind of comments from the gallery.
So I would, at this time, I would open a collective public hearing for agenda items 9 and 10. Anyone care to speak to these items? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. And I would ask if there are any questions. No. And seeing none, hearing none, I'd ask for a motion, please, for item 9.
Just a quick comment about this. There is a dire need out there and no pun intended, but with the aging population, the way it's going, we're seeing a tremendous need for these type of things. And so with that, I'm happy to ask for the approval and make a motion that we approve item number 9 as presented with the one stipulation, which is pretty good.
Thank you.
So, all right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Item 9 passes. Thank you. And we've already run through the public hearing for 10. So are there any questions on item 10? No. Hearing, seeing none. May I get a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve item number 10 as presented. And with that, it has 14 stipulations.
So I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Olguin. Oh, I see you're just going to wait for the next one, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so item number 11 is a public hearing, discussion, approval, disapproval of resolution 2022-PZ-PA-001-21, a resolution approving case PZ-PA-001-21. And this is going to be items 11, 12, and 13 will be discussed together. Mr. Olguin, you are up.
Chair, Vice Chair, Board, good morning again. So the next three cases are also mine, and I'll be giving you a presentation on these. So this project we call Neon Ranch. It's a 55-plus RV resort. They're proposing 518 spaces, but it could be as many as 570 they could end up with. And as I mentioned, it's a RV, or I should say resort vehicles, RVs, and park model. But, I didn't do that. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Let's back up a little bit. I wanted to show you the image because it does paint a pretty good picture of what they're thinking. They want to do something that's a little different than a lot of these RV parks. This has a lot of amenities, which is a big seller for this project in terms of how it functions and what it actually is. So it's not your typical, and the applicants are here today to also give you more details on that. But I like this image because, number one, it does paint a nice picture. And at first I thought that was a martini glass, but it's not. It's an actual water tower. We confirmed that, but it did look like a martini.
An RV resort. That's what you do at an RV resort.
I don't live there, so I wouldn't know. But moving on. So we have three proposals today. We have a minor comprehensive plan amendment, which is 52.3 acres. They want to go from low, moderate density residential to a high density residential land use designation. And they want to, the next application is a rezone to go from general rural for the same amount of land and to rezone it to park model recreational vehicle park. This will allow them to do their use. And the last is a plan area development that actually kind of puts kind of the seal on the deal in regards to what it is and how it works and locking in that use. But it also provides a little bit of flexibility, which is needed for these. This is more of a hybrid type product. This level of detail and what they're doing is not real common, so we needed the PAD to allow us that flexibility. The location is just northwest of Florence Junction, US 60 and Arizona and State Route 79, along the south side of the US 60 in Pinal County. Desert Wells LLC is the owner of the land, and Brian Kitchen and his team are the applicant. So this gives you perspective as to where it's at. It's right. We just recently had another project, an RV project like this one. It's about, let's say, a quarter of a mile away, so it's real close to that. But this project gives you detail. The star shows you where it's at, right off of the US 60. This triangle piece represents the property. Unfortunately, the actual freeway line isn't there, but it does exist. It's just not a random piece somewhere. Here we go. There's the red line. This gives you an aerial image. There's not a lot out there. The majority of what's around is state land, so not a lot of neighbors. You don't get into any real property owners till you get closer to that junction. And another reason to show you this, a lot of this area is got it's got open space and corridors in it. So we have a multi-use trail corridor right there by the wash, and it also impacts this site a little bit. Comprehensive plan, as I mentioned earlier, it's a moderate low-density residential, and what they're proposing is high-density residential, which would allow for the RV park. The current zoning is GR, and what they're asking for would allow this park with the overlay. So we got 52-plus acres, and they're asking to rezone it to accommodate the Neon Ranch. They are offering 2 points of ingress-egress, and per the Pinal County Comprehensive Plan, this does fit into an actual hospitality tourism corridor that runs along this area. The property is accessed off of US 60. So it does, the details within that portion of the comp plan, this would be one of those allowed use. At first staff wasn't too thrilled, but as you read this, it would actually work. This is an overall site plan. It shows you how it works. As I said, it's a triangle piece. All the amenities are going to be on the corner there, and that little pie-shaped piece right there at the very bottom. Get them away. It's several hundred feet away from the US 60. That brown line you see, that's their main entry point to get in. There is a secondary entry point that exists just to the south of this, or kind of down there off of the US 60. This gives you more details as to how it's going to run. You can see the really dark brown lines are the what I call like minor roads, collector roads, if you will, that kind of are sandwiched throughout the entire thing, but shows you where the lots are at, how they're going to lay out any of the park amenities for spacing, as you can see there in the green. But as I mentioned, we'll get into what they're wanting to do, but all the amenities that they're providing are all going to be there in the corner, and along with their package plant. For their standards, I mean, the one that really stuck out to the P&Z was they were asking for 60 feet for architectural embellishments. That one did not go over well. So the commission has added an additional stip, and I'll get into that at the end, that essentially wants them to go through an SUP to make sure the public is okay with something that tall.
We're talking about the martini glass?
Yes, the martini glass. Sorry, guys. But it looks like one. So, yes, that was one thing that really kind of stuck with them, and they wanted to make sure that this isn't supposed to be an architectural node, something that you can see and it represents where it's at. But the concern that the P&Z had was that it would be an eyesore. Fair statement. So SUP would then allow us more authority to bring that thing down. I was more concerned with the idea of it being used as a wireless communication tower, which is why I was okay with the height. But now the more you think about it, don't want it to be an eyesore. So it's a fair statement. This is another plan that just gives you more perspective, the amenities versus the way it lays out. This could change a little bit, but the access points will not. Per direction, I was asked to provide a circulation exhibit that would give you details on what's going to be provided off of the entry point there. And it gets into the main entrance, exactly where it's at. There's also the emergency, which is 2 ways in, 2 ways out, there to the south. But this kind of gives you perspective as to the improvements that are going to be required for this. Not much. It's just a triangle piece that's off of the 60. But I believe there's a decel in as well. You can see there that's going to be provided to accommodate the speed that's going down this area, because that's a lot. People go pretty fast in the area. So decel in is definitely needed. And it shows you there on the image where it's at. Now we get to the renderings. This shows you some of the amenities that are being offered. I mean, this project is doing everything from amphitheater to swimming pools, pickleball courts, a neon ranch, exhibit signs, kind of a museum, if you will, to display some of the historic signs that they have a collection of. Staff was a little bit concerned on this, so we required them to put in standards that say they got to all look like this size. If they exceed that, it's no-go. And they also have to make sure that it complies with the current county code. If it doesn't, then a comprehensive sign review would then be triggered. Now, I say this because I know there was some concern that some questions that I answered yesterday from some of the residents that were worried about driving by. Fair statements. Are they going to see it? Is it going to be an eyesore? Is it something that's going to be distracting? Definitely don't want that. So we feel that we have enough details and enough standards in the ordinance that will protect the area from any visual items that are going to be sticking out like that. Here's another rendering that they provided. Kind of shows you the layout, how the RVs or the park models would actually go. And it's a different type of design, because these actually sit down into an area like a crevice, if you will, that shows how they lay out, so they're all kind of the same size. That's the idea, the intent. I'm sure it'll be a little different, but they want to have some. They want it to look kind of the same, so it's all kind of standardized. But it's different from what you see today. This is an image to the north of the property. As you can see, there's nothing there. It won't be, because the majority is state land. Another image to the south, to the east, and to the west. Items for board consideration. So The site will be designated as high density, which would allow for the use. I will say that we do have some language in our comp plan that we wouldn't technically need to go through a minor comp plan, but just to make sure that there was no public interaction against it, we had them, and they happily went. They paid the money for the additional application just to ensure that we have the high density residential. So there's no question about how tight this is and how many bodies or people living there. This was considered a multiple use type of, if you will, like apartments, kind of in the sense. Density is about 10.96, so it does fall within the 8 to 24 that the new designation will allow. So we do support this type of density. And also housing stock, we've seen a kind of an uptick in a lot of multifamily projects coming in. Not as many RVs, but they're out there and they're still coming. But it also provides affordable housing for some people. As I mentioned earlier, it does fall within the hospitality and tourism corridor, which is important to me because it does allow staff the ability to say, yeah, per what the comp plan says, which is approved by the voters and ultimately by the board, this is something that we want to see in this area. Except the martini glass. So first case is has no stipulations. It's the minor comp plan. The second one is the rezone. We have one stipulation. And the third application is the PAD. We have 19 stipulations. So 2 of those stipulations were added at the May hearing by the commission. And I have them detailed here. We did recommend approval. Staff and the P&Z recommend approval, obviously with the 2 additional steps. 18 reads, the water tower shall be subject to a separate special use permit that shall detail the specific design, the height, and lighting specifications for the tower. Number 19, the third column, 5th row of the amended development standard table 3 shall be amended to read 30 feet, 1-story units, 60 feet for the water tower. So those were the additional stipulations that were added. The board has the ability to add more if you feel it needed. So I'm here for any questions, comments. As I mentioned earlier, we had a couple of concerns. I think the project has been designed in a manner that would address the concerns, as I mentioned earlier. The signs was one of them. But if you have any questions for staff, I'd be happy to answer them.
Supervisor Surtee.
Gilbert, you said you answered questions yesterday because I was receiving emails yesterday and passing them on to staff. So did you answer those, or
Yes, sir.
are these questions that I didn't see?
No, these are questions that I believe came from you, sir.
Okay, so for those watching at home, you saw how it's a triangle, and there is going to be no neon flashing signs out on 60. What lights there will be into the very back of the property. They won't be pulsating or flashing. And other than the water tower, they will be low profile. So
Yes.
those were the main questions, is they didn't want some gaudy Las Vegas looking thing that you could see, and there will be no glow into the distance.
Yes. So the signs, as you mentioned, sir, are going to be in the back on that very end piece there on the triangle by where it's all kind of angled there. And remember, as an additional level of security, it may trigger a sign permit, which then, if it's not per what the sign permit allows, then, or the code allows, then they'd have to go through another process, a committee that would review that and say yes or no. So there's a lot of steps that we put in place to hopefully keep this thing from sticking out too much.
Okay, this might be a question for the developers. You know, a lot of people want a sense of community, and there's a little performing area up in there, and it's not going to be for the public. What if a few years from now something cool is coming and they do want to invite the public? How difficult would it be to open that up? Because I know a lot of the parks in our communities, they do have clubhouses, et cetera, that they'll open up for awards banquets, things like that. Would it be possible to have, you know, some kind of a performance like that where the whole area could come?
That's a great question, sir. I would say it's very difficult because there's barely enough parking to accommodate what they have now. So by bringing in additional public, you're going to be parking on state land. So it is possible. We have steps in play that you'd have to go through, but it's not. It's very specific in the book, and we wrote it several times, that if you're going to do any of these music events, it's only for those that live there, and they agreed. So it's mentioned several times throughout the document, but yeah, it would be very difficult to open this to the public. There's no room.
Okay. I think those were the main questions we got. So 2 years from now, I go by, you're going to see something over there, but you're not going to see a glow of lights. So that's the main thing I think people wanted to hear. Thank you.
Just a quick question. Maybe I'm missing it here. Is there a westbound access to this? Because I'm seeing it's on the southwest side of the highway, but is there a U-turn facility or
Crossover.
That's a crossover someplace along
Talking
there?
about to the south there?
Right. Well, so if I were going westbound on 60 here, going from the junction going toward Gold Canyon, how do I get there?
You'd have to make the big loop to come around.
Go up.
Make the loop.
Excuse me? So you'd have to go to the junction, turn
You have
around.
to make the loop.
Yeah. I believe so. I don't know if this doesn't propose any.
It's not showing it.
Yeah,
Well,
no, it doesn't propose any
the junction
turn off
south
across
of
the freeway, which would be disastrous because you'd have to slow down, cause accidents. So no, this is only off that one main portion of the arterial that's up against the project itself.
And I understand that's an ADOT issue to get across
Yes,
there.
and
but
it's their right of way,
I'm
so-
just curious where the crossover is. It's
Yeah,
to the north.
This hasn't proposed for this project. We don't have one proposed.
Okay.
Nor would we want one.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from the board?
Not of staff.
Seeing none. Okay. The applicant is here. Would you care to make a presentation, gentlemen?
Chairman and
I know it.
James
I
Mullen,
know why they
9610 East Fifth Avenue, Scottsdale, Arizona. Our comments are going to be brief because you've gotten a pretty good presentation here. But I do want to touch on some of the comments that were made from residents up north and make sure that we're addressing their comfort level. These are seasonal stays. This is a snowbird community. It is like a cruise ship on land. It literally has programming going on every day while our guests are here, and that's what makes it fun. The neon theme for Neon Ranch is consistent with our company. Every project we do has a theme, and part of it is to just bring a sense of excitement. The neon signs are curated. This is an art process, not a sign process. It's certainly not directional. And as you saw, they are quite a distance. I was told almost 800 feet off the road. And by the time we have park models and RVs and in our guest spaces, we should be at a place where you won't even see those signs. They're not made to be up in the air. They're made to be where you can see them. It might be a sign from Detroit with a plaque that says this motel was here in 1948 by Maud and Maxine and et cetera. It's to bring some heritage, American heritage, in an art walk type environment during the day and into the evening. So that is the neon sign. What is really exciting about this property is that it has the state land surrounding it. So where can you have a 90-foot zero-edge pool that looks 20 miles into the desert? It's spectacular. Even the Phoenician can't do that. And so we're excited about the site. Triangles are tough to develop, but we found a way where it all works. The ingress and egress we've been through with the traffic engineers and with ADOT. There's an elevation difference if you know that that part of 60, so you're going to have to go north or south to get a rig across that median. And we have proudly worked very hard to get this to a place where it is an anchor of the tourism corridor, where people will think of this as a corridor. It will definitely anchor it and will be a destination for certainly all of our Midwest friends and other folks that are around. This is a very popular product, and we have amped it up. We've been to over 40 parks around the United States. No park is as quality and as fun as this one.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions from the board? Supervisor Goodman.
Just out of curiosity, the water tower, the reason for the structure itself and the capacity, what's the rationale behind that?
So we were inspired by some of the recent trends of gently lighting, more glowing. The water towers in different places in Arizona, and we were inspired by it. I think it's neat when you drive down I-10, you see Coolidge's Tower, and it kind of brings a certain sense of, well, I wonder what's there. Certainly identifies you that that's Coolidge. You may not think about on I-10. And so we wanted to mimic the same thought process where it's just a light glow. We didn't have enough details through P&Z to get everyone comfortable. And so we're in the process, or we're the lighting company and getting our lumens in, but it's just a glow of the water tower, so it has some feature there. If you think of it at the pedestrian level, if you're walking around the park, it's orientating wherever you are in the park. If you can find something like Disneyland that you can kind of see where you are in the park. Oh, we go this way for the golf. We go this way for the concierge counter, whatever it may be. But it's just to celebrate the development and punctuate it in that way. It's not full of vodka or gin. So that wasn't our intention.
That's my next question, by the way.
Yeah. So I'm sorry for the people we might have disappointed with that comment, but we're just trying to keep it very lively. If any of you had seen any of the pieces that are on our internet site, you can see this is for very active 55 plus folks. We have moved our own rig all over Arizona, stayed in different RV parks to understand how they manage people. So we were a customer, including the Arizonan up the street. We were there for 6 months to understand all the things to do right, do wrong, so that we can just do the best job possible. I think everyone would be very proud for this project.
Okay. I know, if I can continue, I know that the city of Mesa had that tower. I don't even know if it's still there, to be honest with you, but as a kid growing up, I remember the city of Mesa's water tower that we had for years and years and years, and part of the rationale behind it was to pressurize, so that they didn't have to automatically, to put in pumps and things of that nature to pressurize. Then there's the city of Gilbert, which is the same thing. They've even preserved that water tower over the years. They still have it. I don't even know if it's functional anymore, but that is kind of an icon, and it was interesting. I thought maybe it was a marketing gimmick, along with what you said about it's happy hour right now.
That's right.
But anyway, thank you. That does help me a little bit with that, so thank you.
And we've got engineers working on that drop to see the pressures, and we've got lighting companies. We'll be fully prepared to address P&Z and address any concerns so that it's a good fit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? All right, hearing none. This is a public hearing for items 11, 12, and 13, and so I would open the public hearing, and I believe I have one person that cares to speak so far, Mr. Revelis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Roberto Revelis, Gold Canyon resident. I'm speaking here only on behalf of myself. However, I want to underscore what our supervisor, Mr. Surdy, already mentioned. Our neighbors at Entrada del Oro and Gold Canyon have been posting concerns that relate to items that have been explained quite clearly, but which are of concern. Neon Ranch was immediately drew everybody's attention. Neon, water tower, glowing. How does that affect Pinal County's dark skies ordinance? That's one question. Another question that has been percolating, if you will, through our communities is what's the need for yet one more RV park when the Arizonian already reports high vacancies in 5 months out of the year? What is the impact of this Neon Ranch RV on water during the critical water shortage that the county and our farmers are experiencing? what is the impact on the crowded roadways that already carry heavy traffic from east to west on US 60? While we recognize that, yes, it fits into our hospitality and tourism corridor, it'll probably improve if things work out, improve the lives of communities that are looking for employment. But those concerns ought to be addressed in more public communication by the county, and an explanation of what, if any, opportunity exists for Entrada del Oro and Gold Canyon residents to participate as this development unfolds. How much trust can we have that the construction will be monitored to ensure compliance with the mitigating stipulations that have been mentioned? So all of that, Mr. Chairman, to underscore the continuing need for improving everybody's quality of life, but assurance to those of us who already have been here accommodating additional growth, that we can continue to ensure as much as possible that the values that attract people here, dark skies, open space, are protected. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Revelis. Any others who care to address the board during the public hearing? Oh.
Mr. Chairman, David Coward from Gold Canyon. I just have one question on this project. In the documentation, it talks about two signage fixtures off of 60, which are, I believe, as described in the document, of a neon type presentation. Of course, mirroring the Neon Ranch branding, as it were. And I'm just concerned, how high is those going to be? Are they going to really stick out for people going up and down? Because, you know, that's dark skies, and that's a big issue in that area. It is what attracts a lot of people there. So having some big neon signs off the freeway, and there may be just two of them, but what about the future? I mean, you've got another RV park that's a quarter mile away that's going in. That's going to be, that's like over 1,000 spaces in that immediate area that's planned for. So that's my only question. And maybe I believe it was alluded to in the presentation that they're working on the height of those signs and that kind of stuff. But that's my main concern is those signs are advertising this property off the freeway.
Thank you. Mr. Olguin, did you care to comment? You said you did say something about the signs.
Yes, in regards to the signs, as mentioned, get the presentation up. Here we go. As mentioned, they're set back so far away from the entry point that they should be screened well by all of the units that are going to be in place. In addition to that, they're not going to be ones that are high to get attention. This is more of what we call a museum. That's what they called it.
Probably not those signs, the ones along State Route 60 or Highway 60.
So any monument signs that he wishes to do, they have to go through a permit process. And if he exceeds what's allowed in the code, a comprehensive sign review would be required. I think our current code doesn't support neon glowing signs, so that's something that would be up to the board to approve. I did want to make a quick mention, if I may, and this is in regards to the public, and this is with all due respect, the ordinance that we have for lighting we do not have a dark sky ordinance. It is mentioned many times. I was forced to read this thing many times, but we don't carry a separate ordinance that is dark sky. We use a lot of the examples and ideas of dark sky within our ordinance when it was written. But there isn't so that violation isn't applicable. I know it comes up a lot in conversation, and a lot of people are worried about that, but just so we're clear, we don't have it. We use recommendations, but we don't have a dark sky ordinance. And once again, the large sign that was proposed, that one will be under a special use permit process, which is open to the public once again, and will ultimately be decided by the board members if it should be allowed to be that tall. I believe the current height on that area was 30 feet, so it's 30 feet and higher. But the signage, once again, shouldn't be an issue because the board has, once again, the final approval for that. So these are great questions, great comments, and I appreciate them. It keeps the planners on their toes. So I always encourage those to come and participate in these processes so their voices can be heard. So we thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any others that wish to address the board in public hearing? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And Supervisor Goodman, you had a comment or a question?
Yeah, to Mr. Rosellis's comments that he made earlier, I think that's imperative that we do. That's, for me personally, that's one thing that I look at when it comes to these type of developments, is the transportation. Are they being addressed and looked at appropriately? The water issues, is there adequate water supply to these developments? Are they making sure that these are done? And safety, those are the public safety, and making sure that all those three areas for me are met. That's the first I've heard about. I've heard multiple times about our lighting ordinance, and I didn't even know that we don't even have a lighting ordinance. And so that's interesting and curious because multiple times that's been brought up in this board meeting, by various individuals about a dark sky ordinance. And I didn't even know that we don't even have one. And so,
Board member, if I may, we have an ordinance.
Okay.
We got zone 1, 2, and 3. So we definitely have an ordinance. So
Okay.
those are watching,
Okay.
no panic. We have an ordinance, and it is used every time a project comes through.
Okay.
We do not carry a dark sky ordinance in addition to that ordinance.
Okay.
Some areas have a dark sky where they limit how much lights are allowed. It's only so many in neighborhoods, more specifically. We don't have one that does that. It is the actual. If you were to go to the code and look up dark sky, that comes up. It's mentioned many times, but there's not one dedicated to that. I spoke to the gentleman who helped write the ordinance at a conference, and he said that they were using a lot of ideas from the dark sky when they developed our ordinance that we use today. But it's not specific to a separate article or a separate portion that would cover the dark sky by itself.
Okay.
So we have an ordinance.
Okay, good.
Okay, good.
Okay, good. And maybe I just worded that wrongfully because I think it was more the dark sky that I've heard that term multiple times, and that's really what I wanted to make a comment to. But if I could, if I can continue.
You may.
The other thing is that the transportation part, we've been working strong as a county to help bring the 24 and even to the point to where right now our state legislators are working on a budget that would bring substantial amount of dollars to our county in our infrastructure, mainly the 24, bringing that across and tying it into the 60 on the near the Renaissance Fair, which would actually help eliminate and even address some of the traffic issues with your guys' project, but all kinds of stuff there on Gold Canyon area and things of that nature. I'd strongly recommend that we get a hold of and just to put a plug in, that we put the pressure on our state representatives that they get this budget through, because we're dependent on those dollars to help us in our infrastructure when it comes to transportation. We hear our brothers and sisters over from the Gold Canyon area and how that continues to be a big problem on the 60. We hear you loud and clear, and we're taking efforts, everything that we can do to help move things forward when it comes to transportation in that particular area. Is this part of the superstition vistas in some of the things that or is it outside of where their plans were?
I believe it's outside of this.
Okay, all right. For me, that's pretty much all that I have to say, so thank you.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Surdy, you had something?
Yeah, a great point. There are budget talks going on right now at the state capitol, and I'm dumbfounded that there are a few, even in our area, that are leaning towards voting against money for the roads, which is just, I mean, that's their job. It's our money. We need it on our roads, and I can't believe that they're considering not voting for this. There might be some other waste somewhere else, but please leave the roads in there. I mean, you're going to set us back 5 or 10 years if that doesn't get approved. So that was piggybacked onto Supervisor Goodman. But Mr. Rivella said, what is the need for this? And the need is competition and newer and nicer. You know, what you want to stand out above your competition. And I believe even the Arizonian, who you said is not always full, they're even talking about re-upping themselves and adding some more spaces that will be to be better, because there is a choice. You can go to Yuma, you can go to South Texas. So how do we bring them here? So, which is tourism related, which is why we want this newer, upgraded, really cool park instead of the 20, 30 year ago type park. So I believe that would answer why they would need to make this so nice. So,
thank you, and Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real quick, the water issue being brought up, I believe this is in the Arizona Water CCNN area, or is it a private water system? It's a private one that's out there? Okay. So, and you have a will serve letter from them? Does somebody want to respond to that? And I'm just, just to let everybody know that you haven't decided to build
we own a
something
well.
with no
We own a well on site. We've been in communication with Arizona Water, but we do have Type 2 rights on the existing well. We have more than enough capacity, quality, and we're adopting the zero-scape, low water use landscape plan.
Right. Okay.
I apologize. My name is Cecil Yates. I'm the president of American Resort Communities. I live at 14502 North Lar Court in beautiful Fountain Hills.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Just one more statement, if I could. I grew up in East Mesa on Higley, between Higley and Southern on Higley Road, between Baseline and Higley. And as a kid, one of the first developments that came into our community was the Farnsworth family, and they built the Dreamland Villa. And it was basically for a retirement community, and 5 or 6 months out of the year, they came, and that was one of the first retirement communities in the entire state, and it did very well. And as a kid, I delivered newspapers there. It provided a job for me as a kid and my brothers, and did a lot of good for me as a kid in these. I love snowbirds. I love who they are, I grew up with them. And when it came to tips, boy, it was great, And so I see a big need for our snowbirds and for what they're doing here. And when they come, I welcome them wholeheartedly. In this particular project, I can see a lot of good advantages to it. So thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, then I would ask for a motion on item 11, please.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve item number 11 as presented with no stipulations.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion item 11 passes. Let's see, we've covered 12 and 13 in this particular process. May I get a motion for item 12, please?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve item number 12 with one stipulation.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion item 12 passes. Item 13, may I get a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve item 13 as presented with 19 stipulations.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, item 13 passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again. Item 14 is the public hearing and discussion, approval, disapproval of resolution number 2022-PZ-PA-024-21, a resolution approving case PZ-PA-024-21. And we have presenter Patrick. Hello, Mr. Roberts. How are you?
Wonderful. How are you, Chairman? Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chair, and members of the board. I'm going to be presenting on Mountain View Estates PZPA 02421, PZ 04621, and PZPD 04621. This is a proposal to do a requesting a non-major comprehensive plan amending 9.52 acres from moderate low density residential to medium density residential to allow a single family residential development on those 9.52 acres of land. It also includes a rezoning, requesting to rezone the subject properties from CB2 general business zone and CR5 multiple residence zone to an R7 single residence zone. It also includes a PAD overlay district, requesting some alterations to the standards of the R7 to an R7 PAD. The landowner is the organization 44CG LLC. The applicant is La Jolla Cove Investors, and the agent representative is Snell and Wilmer LLC, represented by Chris Collier, who is here in attendance. The subject site is located off of Erica Road and John Jacob Astor Avenue in an area of unincorporated Casa Grande. The development area is 9.52 acres with a proposed development units of 42. The total area of the arterial and collector streets are included. This is a description of the proposed densities showing 4.4 dwelling units per acre. This is a county map showing the location of the property. It's nested between Eloy and Casa Grande in the area of unincorporated Pinal County. This is a vicinity map showing areas surrounding it. You can see there it's surrounded by SH to the south and north, CB2 and CB1 to the east, and the rest of the area surrounding it is incorporated Casa Grande and Eloy. This is an aerial map showing the subject properties, and the mail out to all of the mail out area that we utilize to notify all neighbors. The proposed change to the comprehensive plan would alter the current density of 1 to 3.5 dwelling units per acre to propose 3.5 to 8 dwelling units per acre to satisfy the required 4.4 dwelling units per acre. This is a map showing the current zoning and identifying the area that would become the proposed R7 PAD. This is the site plan proposed for the residences. The green indicates open space off of Erica Road. Besides that, it's utilizing existing CB2 commercial lots with adequate circulation around Summit Drive, Paradise Lane, John Jacob Astor Avenue, and Erica Road, allowing minimal traffic concerns. So this property was previously rezoned from GR as part of PZ 24271. So the properties remained vacant since it was last rezoned to CB2 and CR5 for the last 51 years. This is a image looking north on the subject site. You can see some existing residences in the suburban homestead areas to the north. Some additional images to the north on a different part of the site. Also looking north from the open space proposed on Erica Road. This is an image looking south to some existing, I believe those are duplexes and fourplexes on the existing CR5. And looking east towards Sunland Gin, which is the main arterial access to the I-8 and I-10 interchange. And looking west towards the Casa Grande Mountains. So some items for board consideration. The submitted applications for this land use request are for an approval of a non-major comprehensive plan amendment, a rezoning, and a PAD amendment. If the applications are approved, the subject property will be rezoned from CB2, General Business Zone, and CR5, Multiple Residence Zone, to an R7 PAD for a single-family residential zone, allowing single-family residence development of 42 units on 9.52 acres of land. To date, the county has received no letters in opposition, and the property has legal access to all properties. This is a list of the requested development standards compared to the traditional R7 standards. They're requesting a small reduction in the minimum lot size to 6,000 square feet and 5,800 square feet for corner lots. An increase in the minimum lot width to add 10 additional feet onto the property size and make it fit in the existing CB2 platted lots. And some small changes to the minimum building setbacks to accommodate, to permit a 16-foot front setback in addition to the existing right-of-way, which would bring the total distance from the back of the curb to 20 feet. As a residential project, the new residence will support existing and planned commercial development. The proximity to the I-8 and I-10 interchange places this project near compatible employment activity centers. The rezoning of the subject site to residential uses will not affect the region's efforts to continue to attract new commercial development and may spark compatible development at nearby junctions. Ultimately, staff recommends the Board of Supervisors to approve the minor comprehensive plan amendment with PZPA 02421 with 0 stipulations. The rezoning PZ 04621 with 1 stipulation, and the PAD overlay PZPD 04621 with 16 stipulations. And we'd be willing to, staff is willing to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant's also here and was willing to present as well.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Any questions from the board?
Comment.
Comment, please. Go ahead.
I'm happy to see something's happening out there. I looked at those commercial lots. I don't know what they thought they could ever put on those as far as businesses. They just were like postage stamps, and didn't make a lot of sense. So some activity out there will be good, and I think it's a compatible zoning that, like you had mentioned, the duplexes down there and the fourplexes. So there's some density in that area already. So, yeah, it looks good. I'm pleased with it.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none. The applicant is here. Thank you, Mr. Roberts. The applicant is here. Would you care to present there?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Let's see, I think my presentation is coming up there.
Your name in general.
Oh, yes. My name is Chris Collier. I'm with the law firm of Snell & Wilmer. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. My address is 400 East Van Buren Street, Phoenix, Arizona, 85004. I'll try to be quick because I don't have much to add based on Mr. Roberts' presentation, but wanted to at least provide a little bit of detail. As Mr. Roberts noted, this is a 42 unit, going to be a 42 home subdivision. It's currently been vacant land, as Supervisor Miller noted, in our opinion, because of the fact that it's been basically platted for commercial on post size stamped lots. A couple things I will note. You'll note the odd shape there in the southwest corner of the property. Just want to clarify the reason that those it's got that jagged edge there is because of the fact that we don't have site control on those properties. We had actually asked those the property owners if they would like to join in on this. We would do it on our nickel, and we never heard a response. So we would have loved to have included them. That As a result of that, we made decisions working with staff to design around that and make sure that if those are developed as commercial lots, that they will have buffers with open space, et cetera, around them. Here's the plat. That is the impetus for all of this. You'll see there that along the eastern half as well as the southern side of it, they really are small lots, and they really are incompatible with what is zoned CB2. In addition to that, I'll note that it's actually under the comprehensive plan intended to be residential. So none of it really matches. And so what we're trying to do is, in my opinion, is correct the issue and allow this to be developed, which is why these have been vacant for, I believe the stat was for 51 years. Excuse me. Here's the existing comprehensive plan that covers it, which is at moderate low density residential. We're just seeking to increase this to medium density residential to accommodate a home on each of the lots as it was platted, with a minor tweak, which I'll discuss with you. The existing zoning, with the exception of the northwest corner of the property, is all zoned CB2, which general commercial. The northwest corner is zoned multifamily. We'd rather believe it makes sense to have this be a cohesive rezone, and so we're actually going to downzone all of it to the R7 PAD rather than having kind of a piecemeal approach there, which we think is the better approach. So you'll see here, this is what we are seeking then with the rezone. As I noted, this is a 42 single-family homes is what would be intended here. Open space will be in the green areas there. That green space is designed, as I mentioned, to buffer around the existing CB2 lots that we don't have site control over. I'll show you an open space plan here in a moment. But again, we think it'll be a nice amenity to the homes that would go in there. Because of that change, though, I will note that we will be seeking a lot split of the two multifamily parcels, currently zoned multifamily parcels directly north of that green space right there. So we'll be keeping the same amount of lots as it currently is platted, just to make sure that we accommodate some of the open space where it would be best used. As Mr. Roberts noted, these are the development standards that we're seeking. The intent behind all of these is to be able to develop the properties as it is currently platted, which would require having that adjustment to the lot size and the setbacks. We have done a traffic statement. We don't believe that there's going to be any real impact to traffic here. At its peak, it's going to be less than 1 car per minute in the area. So we feel that it will be a very complementary use without creating adverse impacts to the surrounding neighbors. With respect to utility services, we are within the Arizona Water Company's service area. Each of the homes will be served by septic, which we have worked with the county to make sure that would be allowed in each of the lots. Here's just a conceptual open space plan. You'll see a lot of open space, green space. There'll be a trail system throughout, which will serve the community, we think, in a really nice way. There's going to be at least 3 floor plans here between 1,300 to 1,800 square feet. The idea here is that these are going to be starter homes. So they'll be priced at a nice price point. They will have multiple elevation options available. Here's some others. So again, it'll be a very nice product. The home builder will be Century Complete, which is familiar with the community and all that. So I think it'll really provide a nice product. So with that, I probably already talked too much, but I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Collier? Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Collier.
Thank you.
All right, this is a public hearing, and I would now open the public hearing for collectively for items 14, 15, and 16. Is there anyone that cares to speak to the board about these items? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing, and I would ask for a motion on item number 14.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve item number 14 as presented with no stipulations.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 15, as this has been covered along with item 16 in the public hearing process, I would ask for a motion on item 15.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve item number 15 as presented with one stipulation.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Item 15 passes. Item number 16. May I get a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve item number 16 as presented with 16 stipulations.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen. And uh-oh. Oh. Yes, I know. I got it. Change of plans. Okay.
We're good?
Well, so far, no, we're good. That all passed. This is the next item. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great day. Now, item 17 is discussion, approval, disapproval of a lease between Pinal County and the state of Arizona acting by and through its Department of Transportation Administrative Services Division. And I was told once that this required unanimous approval, but now I'm told, no, it does not, so we may move forward.
You are correct. We just had the discussions with our attorneys there, and yes, they did conclude that, no, this does not require unanimous decision. So,
tell us all about
it? Sure. I'll read the statute
while you're here.
to you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Can I ask a question to that? I mean, is that because we're missing a board that you could not, because isn't it who's present? Or
No, it's unanimous.
no, but do you understand my question, though?
I
mean,
do.
would you know,
do
would
understand,
it
yeah.
require all five of us to be here?
It would have required all five with unanimous consent, yes, on that one. You're correct. But this was held a different way through the auction process and the like, so this is why it does not require unanimous consent. It just requires a majority vote of the board. The board is sitting, yes.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
There we go.
Sure.
Mr. Ortiz.
So, Joe Ortiz, Pinal County Public Works Deputy Director. Yes, this item is a request from Public Works Real Property to approve a proposed lease agreement between Pinal County, the lessor, with State of Arizona, acting by and through the Department of Transportation Administration or Administrative Services Division, Motor Vehicle Department. The location is 575 North Idaho Road, Suite 600, Apache Junction. This, as was mentioned, this item does not necessarily have to have unanimous consent, but by ARS, it does not require a public hearing. But it does require effective posting and notice, and that needs to be done for 15 days, and that was done by county website and the local publications. And no outside interest was received through those notices, so that criteria was met. Essentially, just to bring you up to speed, yes, this is MVD. MVD has been there since 2012. We're trying to negotiate with them right now, and this lease that we're proposing today is a month-to-month type lease because there's some negotiations going on between MVD and facilities on some proposed improvements to the building. Plus, we'd like to reevaluate a new appraisal to get some more current cost available. So this month-to-month lease is, like I said, a bridge, hopefully, to a long-term lease that will be coming back to you, hopefully, in the short term, near future.
Government time?
Yeah, government time. I don't want to promise a date, but so with that said, like I said, Public Works Real Property is requesting the approval of this lease agreement for a month-to-month basis.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board?
No
Supervisor
questions,
Stern,
just that
comment?
for the convenience of the residents, we do not want to lose this. For instance, the Social Security office out there is talking about pulling out and moving to Gilbert for some reason. So the more amenities we have close by to serve the citizens, the better. So,
All right. Any other comments or questions from the board? In that case, not seeing any, I would ask for a motion for item 17, which does not require unanimous vote.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve item 17 as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you.
Mr. Ortiz. Moving speedily along here. Item number 18, discussion, approval, disapproval of Board of Supervisors district budget capacity for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. Ms. Woods, you're up. And Ms. Shepard.
Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chair, members of the board. As this item today is a follow-up of direction given to myself and my staff on the 518 discussion item, and it's regarding the reevaluation of the district budgets. And going back, we did some work with HR to reevaluate not only the operational side, but we had our HR staff and Deputy County Manager Shepard helped us do some evaluation of position classifications. I would like to introduce Ms. Shepard to go through that analysis with you to discuss where we landed. I will come back and talk about how we developed a baseline budget after she's given the explanation on HR's role in this process.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Shepard.
Chairman McClure, members of the board, Mary Ellen Shepard, Deputy County Manager, thank you for the opportunity to assist you and the Office of Budget and Finance in this process to analyze your staffing needs for the district offices. To support this request, we reviewed the relevant job classifications and had each of the district staff complete a position description questionnaire referred to by the acronym PDQ. The position description questionnaire is a tool for collecting data about the characteristics of a single position. The PDQ describes why a position exists, its duties, responsibilities, supervisory relationships, decision-making authority, relationships to other positions in the county, and other details of a position in order to inform the need, the classification, and appropriate pay grade. May I take this time to thank each of your staff for their thoroughness, completeness, and assistance in completing this questionnaire and helping overall with this project. Recognizing that no two districts are the same, we did, however, find that the duties and the needs fell into three primary categories, and those are reflected on the chart on your screen. The highest level we found, the way the positions were described in support of each of your offices, we're characterizing as executive management. And the priority for this position was really at that policy and strategic level in influencing, informing, researching, evaluating policy and strategy that helps guide the work of the district offices and helps support the needs of the county. This position works with federal, state, and local level public officials as well as representatives of the business community, community groups, and residents. The next level we're characterizing as a mid-management professional level. And this level, the priority is really on managing the district office and facilitating community engagement in executing on the policy and strategic direction set by you as the district supervisor. And then the final level is a operational technical level, also a professional level, but the priority is providing professional level administrative support as well as delivering exceptional customer services to residents seeking information or assistance. Each of these levels has a position or positions that are aligned with the focus. So at the executive management is the district administrator. That is a grade 14. To the right column, you'll see the budget associated with that. And that is set at the midpoint. And it doesn't mean that it needs to be paid at that, but we're setting it at that because the midpoint in compensation principles and practices is that level that's considered equivalent or appropriate for someone fully proficient, experienced in performing those duties. The mid-management professional level, the positions most closely associated with that level is our administrative manager. That's a position that exists throughout the county structure. That is a supervisory position. We also have the assistant to the board of supervisor. That may be a supervisory position, but supervision isn't required for its FLSA status. And that position exists to support an elected official. The operational technical level, we have the administrative specialist, the administrative assistant senior, and the customer service specialist. Also included in there is the administrative assistant. I'm calling this one out because as a part of this review, it would not be recommended that this level be used in a district office for this reason. That position is characterized as an entry trainee level. We found the needs of the district offices and the ability of staff to provide that supervision, training, mentoring simply doesn't align itself, generally speaking. So not to say it can't be used, but I would caution the use of that very low-level position given the needs as they were described to us and the duties as they are being performed in the district offices. Based upon this review, we found the most common staffing model supported a position at the policy and strategic level, as well as a position able to provide highly responsible administrative and managerial support. Given this analysis, we propose a district administrator and an administrative specialist as a baseline from which each district's staffing plan and budget can be further developed as appropriate. Then as a final note, and as this chart reflects, this proposal and this information is offered within the context of a previous decision of the board that recognized the need for actual assignments to be at the discretion of the district supervisor, consistent with the work to be performed and budget limitations. Chairman, members of the board, are there any questions about the analysis and this brief summary of what that analysis demonstrated?
No questions. Apparently you're doing very well. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Woods.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. So in looking at the recommendation of HR and Ms. Shepherd, we began to build a baseline budget for beginning with salaries and ERE. And you can see at the top of this slide that we've built the baseline budget with the salary and ERE of a county board of supervisor, which is set by statute. And then the median of the administrative specialist position and the median of the district administrator position, which total salary and ERE would equal to $272,082. When we took a look at the operational side, the costs that would be associated to operating the office, I'm talking office supplies, any printing material, mailing material, any other things that would be needed to operate the district office. We found that there was a great variety of needs in each of your districts. So it would be hard for us to determine what would be uncharacteristically high or uncharacteristically low for spending. So in order to develop the baseline, I've used the average forecasted amounts for the current year's budget, fiscal year 21-22, what we forecasted each of your offices. I've taken the average of that number and come up with a baseline budget for operations of $23,259. Adding those numbers together gives us a total baseline budget of $295,340. When taking a look at the budget requests for each of the districts, you can see the makeup of the positions in each of those districts it varies. We do have districts 3 and 5 that are operating with staffing levels that are classifications with the baseline budget. You can also see that those staffing levels are not currently being paid at the median salary, but we still, there again, wanted to be able to, in future years, staff at that median salary if need be, bring in those, the positions at the level that the board would need. And then looking at the operational side of things, each district, as we discussed during budget development, each of your districts has very different needs. And when we start to compare the total requested budget comparison to the baseline budget, you can see that we have 2 districts that have total budgets that are above the baseline and 3 districts that are below the baseline. So with that, that's the data that I have for you today. I'm looking for an approval of how you would like to move forward, given the situation that we have several districts above that baseline and several districts below that baseline.
Thank you, Ms. Woods. Any comments from the board? Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, my comments are, Leo, I asked you about this about 6 years ago, and I'm glad to see you got it done. Because this was always been kind of a thing that, and everybody's districts are different, and so they need to be, but it would have been, I was always striving to see if there was a baseline that we could all just kind of work off of. And this is terrific work. I think that, and it required the HR component to be able to really, come up with where we're at with this. So, I mean, I don't know what the rest of you want to do. I'm good with it as it is, but I really appreciate the work and the effort to get to where we can look at something like that. And that'll change from year to year, but anyway, it looks good to me.
Well, I have a comment, and we've discussed this at length. Again, a budget is not this; it's a ceiling, and we don't have to operate at that budget line. We can operate below that, and that's great. This just gives us room to operate because you're always asking how much money. You're asking for so much money, not that you could spend, but you don't have to spend. And again, as you state, look at the bottom line, see what we actually spend, and that's great. Now, on this, I had talked about once about quartiles as we as we talk to other departments and we require them. If they have to go in their payroll, for instance, if they come and they say, well, gosh, we want to pay somebody above the second quartile on the payroll scale, that they have to come to the board to ask for it. And I think in this case, what I was looking for, working toward, was coming up with a baseline, but then having points above that to be able to ask for. So in this case, I believe we came up with $73,835. If we took the baseline and we divided it into 4,
correct,
and it still, the math eludes me a little bit, but that made if we make this as the baseline, the 295, we make the next level at 369,175. But to get to that, this baseline would have to be a majority vote of the board, so 3 out of 5. If you were to go to the next level, it would have to be a supermajority, and that would be 4 out of the 5. If you needed to top that quartile, it would go up to $443,000, and that would require a unanimous decision of the board to move to that point. Again, not going to the top, but being able to operate in that atmosphere. And this was just so we can control it and that we have space to move as the county. And looking forward, if the county were to double in population in the next couple of years, for whatever reason, magic, that we would have space to operate, and we have some place in our policy that says, here's where we operate, and here's how we operate, and we can adjust according to inflation. Does that make sense? Okay. So I like the midpoint level, and I like having the option of going to the higher level to be able to move into having more staff if we need it. Like I say, I don't necessarily at this point, but I have the option to be able to do that in this budget. That's all I've got to say. Does it?
No, it's good work. I like it.
Okay. Any other comments?
Chairman, could I have a motion then that would set the baseline at that 295, and then anything above that we would need to bring back for approval, because we still have, I believe, one district that is above that first quartile at the 370, 163.
Yes.
I feel like I've been called out.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. We do.
I apologize, Supervisor.
No, that's good. No, I'm good with the way this is all playing out, and it does provide an opportunity for us to even justify some of our rationale and reason. My budget was 370 last year, and back to what your comment was, the proof is in the pudding at the bottom line, and you look at where my projections are going to be, they're way below what my budget was in the beginning. And part of what I'm looking at, the rationale for what I'm doing here, is we still don't know how this is all going to play out between us in the new the boundaries, the way the district is going. It's very unique because now there's two of us that are going to be the supervisors for the Santan Valley area, which is the largest unincorporated population in the entire county. And so there's a lot of work that we've been doing in the past, and we'll continue to do it. And so I'm not saying I'll use all that 370, but at the same time, what your point was, if it's there and you have the need for it, you have the capacity to be able to do that.
And to your point, Supervisor Goodman, because we both share Santan Valley, we could get someone to split between us in one of those roles. And so I could pull some out of my budget and some out of your budget and reduce your gap.
There you go.
And bring it down. So
and we've had those discussions already, and even to the point to where if we could pull more from our community development side, to where we've got somebody from that aspect that can be pulled in, and specifically for the Santan Valley area, for instance, that's not even affecting our budget, and then we make some adjustments there, and I won't need to tap into that. But then going back to my biggest form of communication is through the mail. I mean, we don't have a local newspaper or anything else like that, and so that's one of the things with you look at the area of the non-personnel services, the mail is going to be our biggest communication effort, not to mention signage that we put out for our residents when we're advertising a town hall meeting. There's some cost involved in that. And so as we look at this, I love what Steve's been trying to do this for years. We've gotten to the point now to where we have a base budget for all of us, and then we can all have the discussion between us. And I appreciate what you've done here, Chair, is that it's taking away from, this is the discussion that the five of us need to be having.
Right.
And not necessarily any of our staff members, but we're making the point between the five of us and making our decision and accountable to each other and not our staff, because we kind of put them in a bad spot in the first place. And so I appreciate what we're doing here and how we're going about this. So I want to tell you thank you, and thank you for the work that all of you guys have done. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would just say on mine, where my non-personal services are up, let's see, I'm in my third office in a year and a half, and I had to buy new office furniture this year. So it's like, oh, well, still stayed in my budget, but still, it's been kind of crazy. Typically, my expenses aren't that high. So just throwing that out there for Dan that's in the front row watching all this. Okay.
So what we're handles to everything you own, so you can haul it around.
That's right. I got wheels on the bottom of everything.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, Mr. Chair, we're being asked to approve the baseline budget of 295. How much was it?
295, 340.
295, 240.
340.
340. Oh, let's not cut ourselves there. 295, 340, and then as if we need additional dollars we need to justify that in public, like what we've been talking about right now.
And that would be with a supermajority, so that's 4 votes you've got to get to that next level.
To the 370?
To the 370, yeah.
But if I bring it down to 369, I only need 3? Did I understand?
To break over the midpoint.
Is
the midpoint.
Anything's over
the
midpoint.
Anything over midpoint requires a supermajority vote to get there, to get into that next range.
Okay.
And if you break that, then if you get to the 443, between the 369, 175, and the 443, that requires unanimous decision.
Okay. Okay.
And Chair, just so that we're clear, I also would need direction on District 1 as well, since it is over the baseline budget.
District 1 is over the midline budget. I would say that maybe they could talk and see what they can do to get there.
Okay. And we can
See what they can do to make it work out.
Okay.
And then we'll come back to that at the next meeting.
Yeah, we can definitely have a item on the next meeting, which is July the 6th, I believe. So we can have an item approving the District 1 budget as
at that time.
At that time,
Okay.
with Supervisor Kavanaugh here.
Okay. So with that, seeing no other comments, may I get a motion for this convoluted item?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the baseline budget of 295, 340 for each of our Board of Supervisors districts.
You want to throw in the rest of it where
Then you need to do the quartile.
Oh, what?
The quartile, the next quartile.
The next
requires.
Do I need to use that word, next quartile?
It's a very fancy word.
Okay, all right, then I can use it. So, and then with the caveat that there's another good word.
The next.
The next quartile. Thank you, guys. Is what numbers? 369, 175, which would require a majority vote. Supermajority. So anything less than the 369 would require
No.
a majority.
No.
Okay. So anything more than the midpoint, okay, at the midpoint requires a majority vote. If you break the midpoint to move into that next area, which is from the 295, 341, say to 369, 175, anywhere in that range would require a supermajority.
So right now, but the baseline is 295, 340, correct? That's what we're talking about.
That's correct.
So what is the midpoint then?
That is our
That
midpoint.
that is the
So
baseline.
it's not the baseline.
It is the baseline, but the baseline is built off.
The baseline and the midpoint are the same?
It's the baseline built off the midpoint of the positions that are in the budget.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, but I'll go with the rest of you.
This is uncharacteristic.
And Chairman McClure, if you don't mind, Supervisor Goodman, could you also include the amount that your district would be requesting so that we have the ability to vote on your particular
Good.
budget at this point?
That's what I'm going to do.
Thank you, sir.
I would like to do that because let's get past all this. So let me start over again.
Thank you.
I'd like to make Mr. Chair, I'd like to make the motion that we approve the midpoint baseline to be at 295, 340. Anything up and beyond that up to 369.17. 175, 369,175. That would be the super majority, and then anything up and beyond that amount of the 369,175 would require the majority, all of us, unanimous vote.
Does that work?
So far in the verbiage. Now, in addition to that, because I'm beyond that midpoint, I'm asking in my request that my budget be put at Supervisors District 2 at where's that number? 370,163 for the fiscal year of 2022 through 2023. Did I nail it?
That would require unanimous, and we do not have a unanimous board here.
Unanimous?
No.
Oh, no. So if I say 369,175, let's just say for a roundabout number, 369,000, I would request that my budget be put at $369,000.
Do we need to come back to that, work on that, fix the numbers, and then come back to that on July 6th as well?
We will do that between now and July 6th with Supervisor Goodman's office. So we'll come back with that particular worked into the budget. So I won't need a vote at that time. We'll have to discuss District 1.
But we could get a vote today.
Correct.
Okay, for mine. Okay. Did I get that? It's clear, as my dad always said, is it clear as mud? Okay.
We're all good, Ms. Keller? Looking at attorneys, looking at clerks.
I am looking over at my clerk to make sure that she has captured the essence of what Supervisor Goodman has. And in short, it's really to set the baseline budget. And in addition, for the procedures to go above that and a specific item to require action on your specific budget, Supervisor Goodman.
Okay. That's my motion.
So, what they all said, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have we have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. You've received your supermajority. Look at that. All right. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Angie.
Thanks,
All
Angie.
right. All right. So now we have, let's see, what do we have here? Now we have item 19, discussion. Would anyone care to have anything on the future agenda? Any items that anyone wishes to place on the future agenda?
Scared. Well, I'm good.
Everybody's scared to say anything. Okay. So seeing none, we're done with that. In that case, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.